I kind of expected somebody here, but that's okay.
Well,
All right, well, it is 3:30 and all of our CID board members are here. So I'm going to call the Harris Ranch Community Infrastructure District #1 board meeting of June 23rd, 2020 to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Clegg.
Here.
Thompson.
here.
Woodings.
Here.
All present.
And now would be the time to ask if there's any changes or additions to the agenda. If not, it will be accepted as noticed. All right. Second item on the agenda is approval of the Harris Ranch Infrastructure District #1 minutes of May 12th, 2020.
Madam Chair, I'd move approval of the minutes.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I'll note that everyone was an aye, so I didn't ask for nays. Sorry. Item number 3 on the agenda is the FY 2021 budget workshop. And our first presenter, maybe our only presenter, is David Hasegawa. Welcome, David.
Thank you very much. All right. Give me a second as I share my screen here. All right. Can everyone see the screen okay?
Yes.
All right. Well then, Madam President, members of the board, and those who are watching online, it's good to see everyone again. As you know, I am David Hasegawa. I am the district manager. And in today's budget workshop, I will present the fiscal 2021 proposed budget. And the purpose of today's meeting is to obtain your feedback and confirm the direction for the budget. So here is the agenda. We'll go over the budget itself, some highlights, talk about the impact, and then finally discuss next steps. As you know, the Community Infrastructure District is governed by state statute, Title 50, Chapter 31, and by the developer agreement between the City of Boise, the district itself, and the Harris Family Limited Partnership. The city engineer, Jim Pardee, City Deputy Attorney Rob Lockwood, and myself are the primary staff for the district itself. So up on the screen, we have the proposed fiscal 2021 budget. It follows pretty much the same structure that we've had in years past. Revenue and expenditures are divided up into 3 different categories. We have administration, general obligation bond, debt service, and then the special assessment bond. And so the purpose of the infrastructure district itself is to accelerate development. And so the vast majority of any revenues collected are going to be used to pay for debt service that will be then refunding infrastructure projects that have been completed within the district. And so a couple of notes. In the administration category, you can see that we have a $15,000 line item for administration and then $25,000 for contingencies. We have not had need to use that contingency to this point, but it is there in case we do have a large event. And then within the general obligation, the new general obligation bond, the 3.6 million, we expect only about 2 million in bond revenue for this fiscal year. The additional 1.6 million, if you recall, for those of you that were here last year, if you recall, we did get an offer from a lender for a 20-year bond as opposed to what we had expected previously was a 15-year. This year, we do again expect a 15-year, but we've put a $1.6 million appropriation or contingency in place in case we get that, or in case Ada County ends up revising the property valuation estimates upward. So before I move on to the next slide, any questions about the proposed budget? Okay. A couple of highlights. I mentioned that the administrative levy itself is $15,000, and then we have an additional contingency or unallocated amount of about $1,700. I guess that's $1,600. And then for the debt service payment, about $834,000 for this year will be used for existing general obligation debt, and then the special assessment will be $401,000. So what, as I pointed out, what is unique about the budget here is it's really all the revenue is coming from taxation specifically to be used for existing bond debt service or towards new bonds that will be issued in the upcoming year. Last slide on the highlights, a couple of considerations that we give in terms of the debt service itself. When the district was originally created, it was given by vote authorization for up to $50 million to be issued in general obligation debt. That's separate from the special assessment side, and a maximum of 30 years in duration. The way that the district works is that each year as property values increase, the additional incremental value of increase is used to issue new debt. Currently, there's about 16 million of debt that is outstanding. And the actual levy amount that is used for debt service is 2.85 mils or 0.285%. The bonds that are issued are used specifically for financing of public infrastructure projects that have already been completed, and as well as issuance costs and establishing a debt service reserve. So those are the existing or the highlights themselves. Any questions?
David, question, you'll go into it later on what we expect to spend the money on this year, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have a slide on that, so I can address it right now. We have, most of it will be used to refund the roundabouts that have been already constructed. Those are the ones on Warm Springs Boulevard. And then we're also looking at probably an easement for that was issued in 2007, an environmental easement. So ultimately, there's about 5 million. I'm getting ahead a little bit. There's about 5 million in pending invoices, and we only expect to issue about 2 million this year. And I'll go into what the increases have been. So those are the items that we expect to address, primarily roundabouts, as we will not be able to issue enough to cover the full amount of outstanding invoices.
Thank you. And just as a reminder to the public who may be watching, the way the infrastructure district works is that it's actually reactive after things have been built. It refunds the costs of those based on the plan that was adopted when the master plan was created.
Right. So here is a multi-year comparison. And if you look at the property tax line, you can see it starts in 2018 at 435,000, moving up to the 1 million mark for fiscal 2021. And that dramatic rise represents how steeply property values have increased within the district. And the next slide will actually cover those increases. But the revenue from that goes to cover bond debt service. And then as you look, you can tell additionally that bond proceeds, those amounts are not the actual bond amounts that were issued, but were simply the amounts that were set aside. The final amount will be determined once Ada County issues their final estimate in July. In terms of the administrative costs, moving over to the expenditure side, those administrative costs have risen. We've been building in a cost of adjustment as the amount of hours that the staff puts in between the city engineer, the deputy city attorney, and myself is about 400 hours per year. And so we've tried to bring that up to match the amount of work that's going in. And then the other side is those administrative costs also go to cover bond counsel. They cover the financial advisor, PFM, that we work with, and the engineer who produces a report for the special assessment. So any questions on this slide? Okay.
Looks like that.
Okay. This next slide is the actual property values within the district starting in 2016. And so year over year, we've since 2016, we've had about 40% increases. This year, we only had a 19% increase. And according to Ada County, that increase entirely came from new construction. So they are not estimating that there was any property value increase. Now, this is their initial estimate. They've made some pretty big revisions between March and June. So once June is over, I'll be getting another estimate from them just to get a better understanding and to see if things change. Excuse me, my cat is trying to butt in on the presentation. All right, any questions? All right, I already covered the existing invoices, so I'll just focus on the taxpayer impact. There are three different types of taxes that the residents of Harris Ranch will see. One covers the debt service, and that one is the standard levy that you expect to see, and that actually gets combined with the administrative levy. So those two amounts show up as a percentage of the property value. The special assessment is a different type of debt, and that one is based off of the acreage of the property itself. And so that's why that is just the 245, because it's based on the average property size of a house within Harris Ranch. So before I go into the next meetings, that is the presentation on the budget itself. I welcome any comments or feedback for direction on the district.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
David, and maybe this is a question for Doug or Heath. When folks move into Harris Ranch or buy in Harris Ranch, do they have questions in advance ever on that CID payment that they're making in addition to the regular property taxes? Or does anybody ever show any surprise when that shows up? I'm just kind of curious how that works out.
This is Doug. We have a complete buyer's package that has everything in it, from CCNRs to CID disclosures to an actual thumb drive of the virtual reality video of what Harris Ranch will look like in the future, as well as some other things for buyers to pick up posters and information on the Harris Ranch Wildlife Mitigation Association and a guidebook on wildlife in the foothills and along the river. And we're required to, at every closing, have a CID disclosure signed by all the buyers before at closing. So they are informed in advance of the closing, so it doesn't come as a surprise.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that information.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
That's okay.
For David or
I'll forgive you.
or any of you, I'm just wondering, are we at where we expected to be at this point, farther ahead, this far into the CID in terms of expansion and what's been built?
Doug, I'll defer to you on that one.
We are surprised that the increase this year, at least for right now, is 19% instead of in that 40% area. And so we're looking at that in conjunction with conversations with David, and because we just want to make sure that, you know, everything's being included. And there was a small part of Harris North that was not in the CID, but because our sales have remained very constant and overall have increased. And the other concern is, you know, as problematic as appreciation is, based on last year's property taxes, if there was just 5% appreciation, that would be a significant increase in and of itself. So we're, you know, a little disappointed by the 19% increase, but we're in the process of visiting that and seeing if there's anything that we may have missed.
Okay.
That being said, if it's okay, we have in escrow being built currently, if it's okay to give a brief update. We just pulled curb and gutter on 64 townhouse lots and that are in escrow, already sold. And we, and also 4 more 30-unit condominium projects, which I am free to announce and have the okay that even though some of them might be 700-foot studios, the price point on those condos are going to be between $225 and a little north of mid 300s. So we're pretty excited to offer any brand new product out at Harris Ranch for $225,000. We also have in escrow another 260 unit condominium project and also a 260 unit apartment project that are making their way through the system. And then lastly, we have one more 175 unit condo project that we haven't even turned into applications for yet.
Thank you. That's very exciting. Thanks, Doug.
Sure.
David, Doug, in follow-up to TJ's question and your response, it's also true that if that valuation estimate is low, we have the ability to increase our budget and increase the GO bond. Is that correct? Did I read that correctly in the background material?
So we can increase the amount that will be used for general obligation debt if it meets a certain test. And so it's at that 2.85 mils. And so as long as there is additional room, we can add on. At this point, based on the estimate from the county to date, there is no additional room to add on anything above 2 million. Now, that said, if property values and what we've done as part of our study is looked at if there is a decline in property values, and this is something we've done in conjunction with the city and Eric Villamoria's team, is if there is a decline, the district is able to continue to levy the existing debt service. It cannot add on to that debt service. Right. So I hope that answers the question.
And if I'm not mistaken, though, in the past, in order to stay at the 0.285 mil, if it were to go up, we would actually issue, would we issue some short-term debt and then release it into next year? How would, because our objective is to stay at the 0.285 mil, how would we do that?
Yeah, so ultimately what we will do, and I hope this, Madam Chair, I hope this answers the question. If there is any additional room, we will find out about it from the final estimate that we received from the county in mid-July. And the contingency that I mentioned of about 1.6 million, we would adjust that. And when we go before the board again in August, we will request that the board approve a bond resolution that appropriates some of that 1.6 million to go up if there is additional room to do so.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
That does answer my question. I appreciate it.
Good, yes. And one more point, you know, when Doug expressed disappointment about the 19%, part of the reason we are looking to, and it's something that I forgot to mention, but we do have about $2.4 million that we estimate in interest expense that the district also owes in addition to the 5 million in invoices. And so we ultimately want to refund projects in as expedient a manner as possible to halt any additional interest accrual. So that is important for the district. It's something that we're ultimately looking to balance for the taxpayers and be financially responsible is halt any additional interest accruals and pay back these projects in as quickly and timely a manner as possible.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that. I think that's an important point about why we have tried to keep the mill levy up to the allowable. So appreciate that.
Absolutely. Any other comments? Questions?
So question for you, do we need to have a motion that approves carrying the budget as presented on page 21 of our packet forward to the public hearing or not? I wasn't sure of the process on that.
No, I'll let Rob jump in and Madam Chair and add any comments, but my understanding is we're only seeking comments at this point.
Okay.
Correct.
That's correct, Rob. Okay, I just wanted to make sure because obviously with our council hats on, we have to make those motions in order to forward it to public hearing. And so I didn't want to miss something.
Right. Well, Madam Chair, the next steps are we will have the public hearing on July 21st, which will match with the city's public hearing. As prior to that, the district will be posting notices throughout the neighborhoods themselves, as well as advertising in the Idaho Statesman. So that will be our July 21st public hearing. As we discussed at the beginning of the meeting, I do expect that this time there will be public participation in that hearing. And then finally, with the August 25th, that I would like to propose that be our date or sometime close to then to go through the assessment roll. So the engineer's report that will set the amount that will be used for the special assessment bonds. That meeting also will approve the bond resolution for the actual issuance and then certify the fiscal 2021 budget. So would ask if that date works for the board, then I'll work with Amanda to set that up.
Remind me, I assume you've checked this with Amanda and we already have a regular city council meeting that's also certifying the city council budget that evening. Is that correct?
This one, I didn't align it exactly with that. So if you would like, I'd be happy, Madam Chair, to align it with the actual city council meeting date.
Is it okay if I get back to you with that and look at both the time expected of that, of both those public hearings to see which one is best?
Absolutely. And I'd be happy to work with Amanda and your schedules.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Madam Chair, members of the board, that concludes this agenda item.
Well, that is all that we have on our agenda today. Is there anything else anyone would like to bring up for a future agenda, or anything else you think we need to address? If not, I will adjourn this meeting, and we will see you on July 21st.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.